It's Ask GC Anything, where basically you ask us anything and we answer. Now, without further ado, let's get this party started, although this week it's a slightly sad one-man party. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. This is from Matt Byers over on Twitter. Now he asks, can you discuss the pros and cons of thru axles versus quick release? I'm trying to decide on disc brakes for my next bike. It's a really good question actually, because quick releases have now been around for 80 years and clearly on road bikes the most popular form of securing your wheel to the bike. But thru axles are gaining increasing popularity because of the proliferation now of road bikes with disc brakes on. And Simon explores this very question in this video.
Right, seeing as I've just said that quick releases are great, what on earth is the point in this? Well, firstly, security. Quick releases are open to error, either by doing them up too tightly, not tight enough, or indeed not doing them up at all.
Next up is this from Yusuf A in the comment section below last week's Ask GC Anything. He asks, hi GCN, I'm 18 years old and wants to give myself a year of extreme training to get the most out of myself and of course to get that pro look. Where should I start and what should I consider to keep my training running smoothly alongside my education? Cheers. Well, hello Yusuf, thanks very much for getting in touch. First off, don't go and do anything too extreme, especially if you're combining training with your study, as you don't want to burn out. And secondly, the best thing to do is to make sure you get a structured training plan, and that'll help you manage your time far more effectively and also give you some added motivation as well. But the biggest thing when you're combining work and training and studying is to make sure you get plenty of rest. And we look at this in a little bit more detail. This is a typical week's training when I was working full-time in the police and also racing at a pretty high level as well. So on Monday would be, for me, a bit of a recovery day, nice easy ride to work, nice and simple. Tuesday, 1 hour hard with 3 or 4 hill reps. Wednesday, an hour with 10-second sprints, really great to help with your explosive power. Well, some great tips from Matt there on working around a full-time job, but it's now time for the rapid fire round. First up, we have this from Frank VD Brook on Twitter, who asks, should cyclo-cross be an Olympic winter sport? Well, for me, it's a definite yes. What about you, Mike?
It's a yes for me, mate.
Good stuff. Unequivocal there, and I reckon the rest of the team will be saying yes. I think it should definitely be in the Olympics. Next up, we have this from Benjamin Smith, the Benjamin, again on Twitter. What kind of watts do the riders in the team pursuit do? That is a really intriguing question. On the back of that question, I asked a few of my friends over at British Cycling who let me in with some information. We're looking at between 460 and 540 watts, depending on the size of the rider, which is mightily impressive considering they're riding at that effort for around 4 minutes, or these days just under 4 minutes. But the biggest amount of watts are just at the start. So you need a rider who can generate a lot of power, a lot of torque through the bike to start them off and get them up to speed. Yeah, but between 450 and 550, depending on the size of the rider. Next up, we have Bike and Dog Trips. I like that name. Matt, did you have a new haircut recently? And the answer to that question is yes, I did. Do you like it? I generally get one before each Grand Tour, then I have a sneaky little haircut around October that generally gets me through the winter months as well. Next up is this from Seth Kerman. I'm going to be off the bike for about 6 weeks. What's the best way to keep up fitness during this time? Well, many of us have pretty long layoffs on the bike, so it is a very good question. I've had several long layoffs in the past due to injury and illness, but what I've generally done is lots of long, brisk walks. That generally keeps fitness up quite a lot. Do a lot of stretching as well, a little bit of yoga, or get yourself down the gym as well. Get on the spin bike, on the treadmill, generally low impact stuff. And another cracking sport to do if you're off the bike is swimming as well. Finally, this for the rapid fire round is from Christos Lagos. Can turbo training replace real life training? And what amount of time do I have to spend on them in order to replace 1,000 kilometers? Well, I can't generally equate replicating riding on the turbo to the road in terms of kilometers, but to a degree, yes, you can do quite a lot of training on your turbo. I did about 1/3 of my training on the turbo trainer, and I found it really benefited me. But you cannot totally, or I don't think you can't totally replace riding on the road with turbo training, because there's so many skills that you get from riding out on the road, and applying power through the bike feels very, very different. I think the road and turbo training can complement each other rather than turbo training completely replacing the road. And that's it for the rapid fire round. I'm gonna go for a lie down. Slowing things down ever so slightly, and then picking them up again, because this is about sweet spot sessions, we have this from Douglas in the comment section. Douglas, in fact, with a big orange D. Now, Douglas asked, how do you carry out tempo or sweet spot sessions without a power meter? Great question, this. Now, I used to do a lot of sweet spot sessions without a power meter or without a heart rate monitor. I tended to use the heart rate monitor for more interval sessions, and to be honest with you, I didn't actually own a power meter. Now, the best way to describe riding at sweet spot on feel is to ride at a pace or a tempo that you can sustain, but at the same time is quite uncomfortable, and also not quite time trial speed, just below that. Now, I did this out on the road and also on the turbo trainer as well. And to throw into the mix, I used to ride my sweet spot sessions at a slightly higher cadence as well. So about 100 or 110 RPM. So I've got some really good pedaling dynamics into the mix as well. And we explore sweet spot sessions in this video, 5 killer sessions to get you race ready.
This next session is great for midweek if, like many people, you'll be putting your training in around a full-time job or your studies.
Yeah, you want to do a warm-up of at least 10 minutes, more if you feel like you need it, and then slot straight into that sweet spot zone. So if you're using a power meter, 90% roughly of functional threshold power, a heart rate monitor, 95% of functional threshold heart rate. If you're going purely on feel, you should feel blimmin' difficult, like you can always go a bit harder if you have to.
Our final question on this week's Ask GCN Thing comes from Niall Johnson, who asks, cycling on the road has been the best thing I've ever done, but where I live, there are so many potholes, some unavoidable. Any advice on terrible roads? Well, I think we've all at some point ended up on the wrong end of a pothole. That's if potholes have ends. But anyway, there are a few definite ways you can avoid potholes. First and foremost is to avoid them in the first place by, rather than looking down, looking up at the road in front. That's a must. A second one is to get the skill of bunny hopping dialed in. I must admit, I haven't quite got it dialed in yet, despite me being 46 years of age, but that's definitely a tip you can work on. And thirdly, if you know there are potholes on the roads where you live and you're riding in the dark, make sure you get a light with a really good beam so you can pick them out well in advance instead of just going down them. Or, in addition, you can watch this video on that very subject.
Be prepared. And by that, I mean a couple of things. Firstly, an awareness of the route is always a good idea, just so you know what to expect and what's coming up ahead. And secondly, and arguably more importantly, is make sure you've got the correct tyre pressure. So firstly, not too soft, just to avoid the risk of getting any pinch punches. And secondly, not too hard, so you don't get bounced all over the road and even risk losing control.
Well, that's it for another week. Thanks as ever for all of your questions, and do keep them coming using the hashtag TalkBack in the comments section below this video, also over on our Facebook page and on Twitter too. Now, for a sneak peek behind the scenes at what it takes to prepare for a team time trial, how about clicking up here for the art of the team time trial with Team Sky. And for a sneak in the garage of innovator and bike design guru Keith Bontrager, who's going to give you some bike maintenance tips, click just down here. And to subscribe to GCN, as ever, click on the globe. And don't forget to like and share this video too.